What is desertion? See Bowe Bergdahl. So what is desertion? Just look up, you see Bowe Bergdahl's name. Hi, I'm Stan Walters, the Lie Guy. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the case of Bowe Bergdahl. If you remember, Bergdahl walked off from his base. Now I'm going to use a little notes here because I want to keep things accurate. Walked off on June 30th, 2009. He was eventually released May 31st, 2014. Now keep those dates in mind because they're critical. After Bergdahl's release, I was contacted by CNN, the Jake Tapper show, and asked an analysis of some of the writings and some of the details of a personal matter that Bergdahl had sent to family and friends. Now, this assessment is merely my personal opinion. It is my analysis of his behavior. So you do take from it what you want. My point here is to point out the cycle of behavior. The idea here is that was Bergdahl just this unfortunate guy who just wandered off and was accidentally captured, and he was just the unwitting, bumbling fool who just wandered away? I think it's the furthest thing from that, and based on the writings that CNN asked me to look at, I believe that's not what happened. Now, the reason I didn't get to do this on CNN, it just so happened that day, that was in July 2014, it was going to be one with Jake Tapper, was ISIS' first big major attack. And it really came onto the forefront, and the whole day was dominated with the news, and so as television goes, it got preempted, okay? So stuff happens in television. That's not the first time it's happened to me on a news show. It's going to happen again. It's just the way news works. If you will, go back and look at the Lie Guy blog in July of 2014. You see a brief assessment in my blog, July 2014, of what I'm about to share with you. Now, Bergdahl had been writing to some friends and close associates back here in the U.S., and it's interesting what he was writing. Now, remember the cycle of behavior. Go back and look in the 101 Tips for Interview and Interrogation, and there are 5 videos there about the cycle of behavior. Now, just to kind of refresh your memory for a moment, because I'm going to take you down this path and pay attention to Bergdahl's behavior. I'm going to demonstrate that I believe this is a conscious awareness and how much time he planned ahead of time and his actions, and knew that his actions were wrong when he took, before he took part and before he actually walked off of base. Okay. Now, the first process, the first step, is the fantasy or the concept, or in this case, we use distorted thinking. Now, we look at this in any type of criminal behavior, particularly when you can see ahead of time what was going on. So the mind has a fantasy, has an idea, has a concept of what they want to prove or how they want to act or how they want to behave, so that it germinates here. The next step then is the planning process. Okay, how would I do it? When would I do it? What would I need? It's kind of the strategic planning, if you will, as much strategically anybody could plan, particularly in this guy's case. But it's thinking how I would do it, what point would it make, how would I carry out an act that would satisfy that distorted thinking or that fantasy. Then there's the preparation. Okay, so now I figured I want to do it. So now what would it take to actually put it in action? So some of the things that I plan to do or how I want to do it might not be logistically possible or tactically possible. So I might have to adjust on the fly. That could be, for example, with the security or the length of time or weather conditions, or all kinds of things could interfere. So when that first plan hits reality, sometimes it falls apart. Okay, the event horizon is the person's behavior and actions just before they intend to engage in the act. Tends to be the most stressful point of the entire process, because that's where there's a point that they could be interrupted, that they could be stopped, that could be prevented, or they could be identified as what they're going to do. The event itself is the end game. That's what you see. And now if you're in investigations, if you're doing interviewing and interrogation process, you typically start at the event and you're working backwards. What in the Combat Hunter program of the Marine Corps is called looking left of bang. So we're going to look at Bergdahl's behavior, his writings, his state of mind, his distorted thinking, planning, preparation, the event horizon, the event itself, and see if we can understand what Bergdahl's intent and plan was. And again, if you excuse me, I'm going to use the cheaters, and I'm going to use my notes because I want to be accurate as possible. Okay, so May 31st is when he eventually got back. He walked off June 30th, 2009. Okay, In June 13th of 2014, he's back in the U.S. to do the medical write-up on him. Looking at his distorted thinking now in some of the writings and his behavior, to give you a feel of where his distorted mind is. Now, distorted doesn't mean psychotic or mentally ill or some mental or emotional disorder. More disordered a person would be, the less likely they'll be able to follow this cycle in some coherent way. Okay, and for criminal profiling, criminal behavior, that's what you look for. Okay, now in his past, Bergdahl's described that he often painted his fingernails black, and he thought of himself as a Japanese samurai. That's kind of interesting. That this is lone warrior, you know, that he could vanquish evil, and he's got a warlord that takes care of him, and that he fights for that warlord. Okay, and he also was fixated with medieval knights, again, fighting for honor and all that kind of stuff, which is fine, except if it's you never can have the drive or the will to complete or make that come true or to push yourself to that point, which you're going to see through this discussion. Bergdahl was not able to, did not do. Okay. Now he also made these grand plans, but he was never a follow-through kind of guy. Okay, he gets so far with the ideas and never act on them. When he was young, he was going to go on join a sailing crew out of Florida. Okay, I can see somebody might do that. Never did, but has people believing that he did. He's going to do a grand scheme. He's going to go to France and follow this. He's going to become part of the French Foreign Legion. Yeah, if you've seen the determination, the professionalism, and the mental focus and discipline of the French Foreign Legion, he wouldn't last a snowball's chance in a hot furnace making that. Okay, but he fancies himself as being that, but does not push himself to do that or become that. And he was also going to go on a bike ride all around South America, right? And did he? Never. Okay? So his whole fantasy about himself is that he wants the army, wants the military to make him this grand warrior. Now, he's not ready to put the discipline, the time, or the effort, or the focus, or the sacrifice to do it, but he wants the army to do it. And you'll hear in his writings that he blames the army for all his problems. Yeah, at one point he said that the army, he's around all these weak people, that they have, they lack discipline, that they're supposed to be these great warriors, but yeah, they're these soldiers hiding behind sandbags and barricades, and that they were. He didn't like the rigors of military life. Oh, that's too bad. Why'd you join up then for, dude? That he had gotten, that there was no honor, and they're hiding from women and children. Okay? Now remember, this is the guy that was going to be the knight and protect everybody, right? But yet he's berating everybody because they are incompetent and they are not performing like the army should do. And he calls them stupid. It talks about that they, in his writing, so he's writing to this friend of his in the U.S., sending emails, okay, and to his other friends about his plan, about his perceptions. Let's see, let me get to the point here when he's talking about how bad the military was, that he feels like he's entitled, makes that comment, that I'm pathetic, that I have to listen to people talk, and that I have to deal with it. We're hiding from children behind our heavy armored trucks and sea wire and sandbag outposts. We tell ourselves we are not cowards. Okay? And they talked about that, again, their level of incompetence, and that command was incompetent, and that command was going to make mistakes, and command was going to cost lives. If I make it out of this, then I'll be lucky, and that I might be turned into ash. Now, in his time prior, remember, he walked off June 30th. Starting around June 9th, Bergdahl starts sending emails to tell people not to worry about him, that there are going to be red flags, okay, that there is going to be some disruption, that there's going to be some things that are shocking, but he says that compared to the hell of real wars in the past, we are nothing but camping Boy Scouts. Okay, so he's got this idea that, mold me, but I ain't going to do nothing with it, right? We talked about that. So prior to him walking off, he wrote that that he's around crude minds, around shallow people. This is hell that pulls so many fools, that he's talking to people around him, that they are part of the illusion. And so he says now, in his defense, that he was going to walk off and report this to another general. And prior to disappearing, on June 7th, okay, weeks before he walked off post, he emails his friend. Now listen to this. If at any point in time, Kim gets a call from Red Cross or the mill, no matter what, when, in a week, month, or years, keep her from panic and bad ideas. You know what I do. I am still perfecting. Actions may become. No red flags. I'm good, but plans have begun to form. No timeline yet. Love, Bowe. See the plan? Okay, so in his distorted mind, he believes that he's this great warrior that the Army is not taking advantage of, that they're disgracing the honor code, again, which he's not working for. And he's called around these fools and these people, these incompetents. But yet he's telling them, this is again June 7th. He will not walk off until 31st of June, or 30th of June. Remember that. So you're talking about 21 days. He's already talking about these red flags and something's going to happen. Okay. Then he answers when there's questions about this. He is concerned that somebody might hear or read this, like the NSA, for example. So he starts writing this weird code. Okay, lines not good here, which he spells here H3R capital E, tell you when one for the word I have HA space VEA SI space cure, COUR, secure line, okay, and about plans, which he spells PL / ANS to imitate an N. So he is knowing that somebody finds out this is wrong. He knows this in June 7th. This is again 21 days before he walks off. So he's concerned that somebody will find out what's going to happen. There's still time yet for thinking. So he's still working on this. On June 8th, he sends a note, says, if I have died, read. Okay, and tomorrow if I may be dead, thoughts have come to rest in my conscious, subconscious being. These thoughts have placed themselves in my head. I will try to use a little time of this life gives me to bring beauty to the world. This is a storyteller's life. So he's on this grand adventure, going to tell this great story of this adventure. Then he starts looking on June 14th, 7 days before he disappears. 6 days. He's saying he's looking at a map of Afghanistan. And why are you looking at a map of Afghanistan? Because you plan on going on a trip. You plan on walking. You plan on going somewhere. So this whole idea, this was just a moment of an unfortunate guy that was in the wrong place, wrong time, is BS. This guy created his own environment, his own settings. He had planned 21 days before he walked off of what he was going to do, knew it was wrong, and didn't want people to find out. And he's writing in code. Then on the 14th says he's looking at the map. Okay, on the 21st, he's still now 9 days out. How far will a human go to find their complete freedom? For once freedom, they do have the right to destroy the world to gain it. So now he's even talking about leaving and gaining his freedom. On the 27th, he's now 3 days out. He sends an email, who is John Galt? He had a book of, Ayn Rand's book, Atlas Shrugged, and he's referring to individualism and the individual. And he says, I will serve no bandit, no lair, for I know John Galt and understand. Life is too short to compromise value and ethics. I am done compromising. He is at the event horizon. He is committed to this plan of walking away. Okay? Before or after he is gone, a box arrives at the home of this friend of his, Kim. In it is his laptop, his books, his personal belongings, his writings. It has been sent before he left the base. So now you tell me. Look at the cycle, okay? You got distorted thinking, planning. You got his preparation. He's looking at maps. He's planning what to do. He's planning his course of action. He's talking about the night before that he has solidified in his mind, and he walks off base. This, in my mind, my opinion, is desertion. Now, you talk about it, there's arguments here that maybe he was not, has a mental disorder, he's not conscious of his actions that he's going to commit, consequences. BS. If he was not conscious of his actions, he would not be worried about writing things in code and covering it up and telling people not to worry about him, what he's going to do. He abandoned his fellow soldiers, he abandoned his post, in my opinion. And then his fellow soldiers, his unit, they search for him, and men die searching for him. They're killed trying to find him, trying to rescue him. So in my opinion, I'm not a legal scholar, I understand that. But this game that we're playing, that is this unfortunate incident, I think is BS. Now, typical, you guys know I've been in 33 prisons visiting. I've interviewed over 1,300 inmates. I got videotapes of all those. In every one of those situations, you know what the inmates almost exclusively tell you? It's not fair. It was not fair the way I got caught. My sentence is not fair. What do we hear Bergdahl whimpering and whining about now in the last month or so? That the media is out to get him, that the president has poisoned the people's attitude about him. And then his attorney wants to argue that he served enough punishment when he was in captivity. It's what he wanted to do. He made a choice. Bad choice. He made it, and he's suffering the consequences for it. So if you want to look at desertion, then look at Bowe Bergdahl, in my opinion, because there's a classic example of it. So I just wanted to see what my conclusions were and to give you the same idea of that cycle of behavior. Distorted thinking, planning, preparation, event horizon, event. He fits all those categories as somebody who's aware of his actions, aware of the consequences by hiding everything and still walking off base. So now it's up to the judges, general officers and his court martial. They'll do, I'm sure, what they think's appropriate. But if I were on there, I would vote for a life sentence. That's just me. You may feel differently about it. And if you want, go ahead and comment down below. That's fine. I value your opinion, but I'm looking at it from the point of view of what his background and what his actions are. Please be sure to subscribe. And please hit the like button if you will. Remember, a lot of likes gets the system, gets the videos out, and it scores higher with YouTube. Check it back on my website, thelieguy.com. Find out about the upcoming classes that I've got. You're welcome to drop in. We got 3-day and 5-day courses, or if you want to arrange one for your agency, custom design it. I've done programs for the military, for government intelligence, law enforcement, fire service, and loss prevention. So I know I can custom design a program for you. And we'll talk about not only Bergdahl, but how the same cycle of behavior and the collection of information through effective interviewing and interrogation learns its information through intelligence point of view or after the fact looking left to bang. So until again, see you next time, this is Stan Walters, the Lie Guy. Be safe.